Omar in California wants to talk about what logical fallacies I've used in the past and have I ever identified them. So welcome, Omar.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How can we help?
Awesome. Thanks for taking my call, guys. So Matt, I've been watching your show over the years and just various arguments that you've made and discussions and also some fantastic debates that you've had. So my question today was, through your years of discussions and dialogue, have you ever been able to identify any of your logical fallacies in discussions with theists on a whole host of topics, anything from slavery in the Bible to gender issues to the existence of God and how we can't test for it? Through all those discussions over the years, have you ever actually been able to identify a logical fallacy that you have been guilty of and then on record stated it and, came clean and admitted that? That's my question to you.
Yes.
You have. Okay. Would you happen to remember some of those? And can you refresh me? Because I've been watching you for many years. I've never actually heard you admit one. So are you able to recall? I'm pretty sure you can, because that's something you would remember. So go for it.
Yeah. So live in a debate with John Ferrer, I made an argument that I thought was going to solve the is-ought problem. And John pointed out that I was smuggling in an ought by talking about how you couldn't get from an ought to an ought from an is, but you could get to an ought from two is's. And it turns out one of the is's that I was advocating for actually was an ought that smuggled it in. And he pointed that out in the debate, and I acknowledged it immediately and corrected it. And I've talked about it, I don't know, half a dozen times since. But when it comes to, you seem to be making a presumption that in my many discussions with theists about topics like slavery or gender or something, that I've actually committed logical fallacies. And I don't know that that's true. If someone can identify a fallacious argument that I've done, that I've used, I will acknowledge it and change it, as I have done at least once, if not many times.
Okay. Well, once I called, I don't know if you remember me, but I've called a couple times on the show. And one of the times I called, we were talking about, I asked you what would it require? What would it take for you to believe in the existence of a God, or, the possibility that a God exists? And you said that it's just impossible to even examine. There's no way to test for it. So you wouldn't even, you wouldn't even want to discuss the possibility, because it's literally impossible for it to be possible. I think something to that extent.
Omar, I would need to go back and listen to the call, because none of that sounds like anything that I would have ever said. And it sounds like that you are incorrectly paraphrasing it, because when somebody asks me what's required for me to believe in a God, typically I say, I don't know. But if there is a God, that God should know exactly what it would take to convince me and should be capable of doing it. And the fact that he hasn't done that either means he doesn't exist or he doesn't want me to know he exists yet. When I talk about whether or not it's, you can, let me finish, Omar, just stop. You said that you asked me what would it require for me to believe in the existence of a God, and then you added, or the possibility of a God. Now, possibility is something that needs to be demonstrated. If I have a 6-sided die on here, you would need to look at all sides to find out what all the possibilities are. Because if I just roll it and say, is it possible that I rolled a 9 or a 12? Then most people would say no, but they haven't looked at the die, and that die might have a 12 on it. Possibility is something that needs to be demonstrated. I don't know how to demonstrate the possibility of the supernatural. If there was something supernatural, it would need to be demonstrated that this exists or is possible to exist. We can't just assume that it's possible. But I would almost guarantee that I would never say something like that it's impossible or that it's logically impossible like that. I would need to hear the call. So why don't we just talk today with me, you, and JMike about whatever it is, rather than trying to rehash your memory, which is probably flawed, of something I said.
Okay, and I can follow up with that call via email, so not a problem. But you're right. I mean, it's possible I'm not paraphrasing entirely correctly, so no worries. Okay, so possibility, any type of possibility has to be demonstrated. So, and in order for something to be demonstrated, we need, all of the elements within the physical universe to demonstrate something, right? Time, space, matter, energy, and just kind of an empirical approach of empiricism to demonstrate something. Would you agree to that? Is that correct?
So you started off by saying any type of possibility needs to be demonstrated, and that I immediately rejected because there's a difference between an epistemic possibility and I'm forgetting the other term. There's a difference between something which is possible in reality, which would need to be demonstrated, and then what we often go with as the default assumption, and I apologize, I'm forgetting the word.
Modal possibility?
It could be, that doesn't hit me right. It's something Blake and I talked about, but where we say that possible, all other things being equal. Like, is it possible for the Mets to win the World Series? That is different because it is a possibility that is like, yes, we could not say that is impossible. It is one of the many things that are feasible, but that's not the same as a die rolling a 6 where there are only these possible outcomes and one of them must be the case, because it could be the case that the Mets could never win a series, that they will just never have a team that is capable of doing that. And I don't remember the difference between the two, but as long as we're just going to make sure we talk about one and not the other, I'm fine.
Okay. I mean, so you're getting into a lot of specifics there, but I'm just generally speaking that, and I ask in general terms that and I'm just going off of what you said before I asked the question, Matt. You said any possibility has to be demonstrated. And those are your words, not mine, before I asked the question. And I'm not lying. It's recorded, so you can go back and check that afterwards. So
okay, but what I'm explaining, Omar, stop. I didn't accuse you of lying. I'm trying to honestly explain something here, and you seem to be getting a little snarky. By the way, the difference was between epistemic possibility and metaphysical possibility. And so if in the past I said any possibility needs to be demonstrated, I'm clearly speaking about one of those two and not the other. And I wanted to clear that up now before we dig down, because if this entire conversation was based on an incomplete statement that I made that you then drew an inference from, it would make sense to correct it at the beginning and not have a 10-minute conversation, right?
Sure.
So stop worrying about whether I think you're lying. I'm not.
I've had calls with you before. You don't really like my questions because, we'll leave it at that. But if I came on,
let's see how long this call lasts. If you keep obsessing over past calls instead of, I tell you what, have a conversation with JMike.
Yeah, I don't. Sure,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead, JMike. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I want to hear it.
Yeah, no, it's better. I think it's actually better because he usually gets pissed off at me and hangs up and drops.
I don't care. I really don't give a shit.
Keep hashing on that, and we'll see if I can't fucking do it on this show too, Omar. Would you focus on the issue at hand and have a conversation instead of whining about your perceived injustices from the past?
JMike, what are your thoughts on pre-bang, pre-Big Bang, and when the universe likely, I know nothing is definitive here. There's evidence that suggests that, let me finish, sorry. There's evidence that suggests that the universe probably had a beginning. And so
you're already wrong. Science does not make the claim about that. If anyone that tells you that is lying or misinformed. T = 0 is for the most part up for grabs, right? And I don't think that merely sitting in the armchair and postulating possibilities is getting you any further or has any more merit than what we're doing empirically. Now, if you want to talk about philosophical concepts about things beginning to exist and what that means, Well, I mean, that might be different because we can get into like mereological nihilism and differences and things like that. But when you're talking about this thing, I don't care that you think that's the case. You're just wrong that that's what science says. And just go look at any go.
I'm not wrong. I never said that. I never said this is what definitively happened.
You said there was evidence.
Evidence that, yes, there is evidence that suggests, and I'm going back to, and I'm not misquoting because I've heard Matt speak about this as well. You know, Matt has never said definitively that. Yes,
mention me one more time, I dare you.
Yeah, just focus on. You're so focused on the meta with this. Just focus on your argument.
Stop whining and talk to JMike.
It's important that we talk.
JMike, no, shut up. Shut up, Omar. JMike is not under any obligation to defend anything I've said in the past or anything you think I've said in the past. You either have a conversation with the host of this show without whining and bitching about how you think I've wronged you in the past, or I will hang up on you. Clear?
Because you can't handle the fallacies that you're guilty of.
You're not helping yourself.
You haven't
Omar.
demonstrated any fallacy. I asked you, is that clear?
As soon as I try and talk about, as soon as I go there, he says, you're already wrong.
Omar, you whiny little shit. Is it clear?
You got one chance. Yes, you got one fucking chance, or I'm hanging up on you because I just don't give a shit. You're not. You don't sound like. You do not sound like somebody I would want on the other side as an interlocutor. I'm giving you one more chance.
Yes. You okay? I'm gonna say what I need to say. If you guys want to respond, fair enough.
Just fucking say it. Stop with the pretext. Just fucking say it. I'm done. I'm almost done. I'm about to hang up on you.
Okay. So anyway, there's a large number of people in the scientific community that think there's a really good chance that the universe had a beginning. Okay. And I have heard people speak to this, atheists speak to different things that could have been occurring prior to the Big Bang theory or concept of the universe coming into existence at one point in time. And they've talked about, you know, just various vague things like energy and things occurring before that, which makes no sense to me.
I'm sure it doesn't. Let me stop you. I'm sure it doesn't make sense to you because a lot of the stuff, especially preceding the Big Bang, deals with a lot of progression through a series of epochs, which takes a ton of knowledge in particle physics to understand fully. And I'm not claiming that the people that are telling you that know. But I don't know, like, this is a problem. This is so much hubris for any person to go to t=0 and claim, or you use something that has a giant question mark and is up for grabs that we're trying to figure out and dictate what that means, especially when you imply things like before the Big Bang, which might not even mean it. It might not have any coherence to that statement. I don't know how, when you go, I'm going to appeal to the evidence or whatever. What is that evidence? Please provide it, because you're just saying scientists think this.
No, so you just gave an entire, 3-4 sentences on it. So complicated. It requires so much knowledge to know anything that might have happened, and to even ask the question might just be irrational, right? Sounds to me like you're convoluting things and you don't want to deal with it. But my question to you is,
stop. I'm gonna mute you. You're muted. What I said is the honest position to take, and it is that we don't know. To act as if you do know is hubris. It's arrogance. Now, I want to know how you lend this to God and what the evidence is for that, because this is not something that you can. I don't know how you're just going to go in the armchair and think that you figured this out. You're unmuted. You are unmuted, Omar.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. My question to you is, how would you demonstrate that? You said it requires an intense amount of knowledge and
particle physics about the epochs. Stop. Get my thing right. I said about a series of epochs, right, that take a lot of knowledge in particle physics. I'm talking about which is just after. We're talking like 10 to the negative 36 seconds after, right? And you want to back up from there to having knowledge about something when I'm pretty sure you probably don't have the required knowledge in the series of epochs that precede it. My point is to say this takes a lot of knowledge just after the Big Bang, just after t equals 0. I don't know how you've now backed up into this area where you feel so confident to give your and then pin it on me. That's insulting to me.
Straw man fallacy. You're not going to straw man me. So you're trying to make me seem as if I'm supposing that I'm a genius and I'm learned in all these matters. I'm asking you a simple question. What do you use to demonstrate any type of activity that occurred pre-bang? It's very simple. Tell me how you demonstrate for that.
I've told you that we don't know the answer to that. Why are you putting a positive claim on me?
And that's the fallacy. That's the fallacy that Matt
tell me the name of the fallacy, Omar. Tell me the name of the tell me the name of the fallacy. I would love to hear.
No.
I don't know is not a fallacy. Tell me. No, you're gonna fucking wait. Tell me the fallacy or I'll hang up on you.
Want to explore?
Tell me the fucking fallacy or I'll hang up on you.
Trading for it.
Tell me the fallacy or I'm going to hang up on you.
But then for God, you cannot demonstrate, so you cannot even explore. You people.
Last chance. We got to end the show here soon. Last chance. Tell me what the fallacy is, or you're just evading the fact that you just made a claim that you can now not back up.
Moving the goalpost fallacy. You have one standard for God and another for the universe. No. Stop. This is not a shifting the burden. When I say I don't know what's before that, that is a concession that it could be God, it could be natural. I don't know. That's what the concession is. You are coming into this. If you're making a claim that it's a God, that's your burden of proof. It's not. All right, I'm done with you. You keep talking. Well, you're
done with you. I cannot have a productive conversation if you keep talking or you don't answer or you just say that I think this and that. I'm coming here saying I don't know, and I'm saying that the scientific consensus seems to be that we don't know. That's up for grabs. This is why this is a giant topic in philosophy, which I also don't think makes very much progress. But yeah, Matt, do you have any I know you're bowed out on that, but maybe you have some.
Oh, I was playing chess. I don't feel the need to spend any time giving Omar, my thoughts about anything. So it was much easier for me to just go play chess at chess.com and listen, because I can do more than one thing at once. But I love the fact that he wants to claim that there's a fallacy on our part, and the fallacy is we don't know. And then when he sits around and thinks about it, he wants to do that. This is a moving the goalposts, a shifting the burden of proof. No, here's the thing about skepticism is that it's often been said that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I did a video on the atheist debates thing that you mentioned earlier about how I think this is both right and wrong in what it means, in what it attempts to convey. It is correct, but it is phrased incorrectly, because the truth is, claims require sufficient evidence for belief, period. And the reason some claims seem extraordinary is because they are not consistent with the wealth of information that we already have about reality. If you say I have a pet puppy that I got yesterday, and you say I have a pet fire-breathing dragon that I got yesterday, the only reason we consider one of those claims extraordinary is because there's already mountains of obvious, identifiable, detectable evidence. We know that puppies exist. We know that people keep them as pets. We know that people post pictures of them, all this other stuff. And so it's not that a puppy claim requires more evidence than a dragon claim. It's that the puppy claim, the second you make it, is already covered by mountains of evidence that is not covering the dragon claim. And so similarly, when we talk about before the Big Bang, it may be that it is nonsensical to talk about before the Big Bang, especially for the cosmological models that have time beginning with the Big Bang, or at least our local presentation of time and our local presentation of space-time. We can't say what is beyond that, before that. Before that may not make any sense. Outside of that may not make any sense. It gets back to the room with the walls. How do we know the walls don't keep going? How do we know that there was anything beforehand? Maybe something always existed. Maybe there's a multiverse. Maybe there's a God. As you astutely pointed out, neither of us are having different standards for a God than we do for anything else. It's just that when you say hey, I had a really good cheesesteak yesterday. That's covered by a lot of evidence. That isn't covered when you say, hey, I think there's a God who lives outside of space and time and is responsible for as the answer and sufficient and necessary explanation for all the shit we don't know. Those claims are not equal. The reason we call one extraordinary isn't because it is in and of itself extraordinary. It is extraordinary with respect to what we know and understand about the universe already. I'm sorry that Omar doesn't understand that. No matter how many times I've explained it, I'm sorry he doesn't understand and can't paraphrase the calls correctly. I'm sorry that he thinks that I'm just a dick who is dead set on making him look foolish. I think he does a perfectly good job on his own.
Yeah. Yeah. That distinction between implicit evidence versus not having that implicit basis is very key.